So after that women's singles, we turn our attention to men's doubles, and the former champions, the #2 seeds this year, Jung Jae-sung and Lee Yong-dae, up against Hong Wei and SHEN.mp4 from China. So the Koreans, there they are. Former champions, won the title here in 2008. Vastly experienced against the youngsters from China. And Club umpire doing the toss of the coin. So the players have decided whether they want to start, which end they want to start, or whether they want to serve, or whether indeed they want to receive. These are the three choices. And the toss of the coin. Well, this matchup, this quarter-final, is of course a repeat of the final of the German Grand Prix last Sunday. And Hong Wei and SHEN.mp4. Hong Wei, of course, the 22-year-old, very tall man indeed. Their world ranking at 14. I'm surprised they haven't gone up in the world ranking after their win last week, because this is the 8th week that they've been in this position. And you can see their win-loss record for the year really is very impressive, 9-2. And as I say, won their first ever title together last week at the German Grand Prix, unseeded incidentally. Well, their matches so far, the first round against Adam Svelina and Michael Logos of Poland, straightforward affair. But in the second round against the #6 seeds and former champions Koo Kyung-kyat and Tan Boon-hyung, really was a marathon match. 1 hour, 22-20 in that deciding game, and it all ended in rather bizarre fashion. But we'll come back to that in a moment or two. So to their opponents, and Jung Jae-sung, the 29-year-old from Jeongju in South Korea, serves in the army. He's the much shorter of the two men. There he is on the right as we look at them. Has been struggling for some time with a long-term shoulder injury. Currently #2 in the world, hence their #2 seeding position. But they have been as high as #1. That was in January 2009. Had 3 weeks on top of the world, and it coincided with Jung Jae-sung having to do his military service, so they didn't play the All England, didn't play the events in March, and their world ranking dropped. So that was very unfortunate for them. But 2 tournaments so far this year, individual tournaments that is, and they've reached the final of both of them. Beaten finalists at the Korea Super Series, and again last week, obviously, losing out to their opponents of today. Now, their first 2 matches, first of all against the qualifiers, Go and Tag from Malaysia, and then yesterday against the English pairing of Chris Adcock and Andrew Ellis, 21-13, 21-15 in 42 minutes. Well, they are a pair that have always been a threat to every other pair in world badminton. They've been so consistent over the years, and it's a pair that all the other pairs respect greatly. So the Korean pair, not only former champions here back in 2008, 3 world championship medals, including 2 silver back in 2007 in Kuala Lumpur, lost out to Marcus Kido and Hendra Setiawan, and then in 2009 in Hyderabad, lost out to Kai Yun and Fu Haifeng. Despite having 2 match points, it was one of the most thrilling matches I've ever witnessed. It really was terrific, that World Championship final in Hyderabad. 28-26 in the deciding game it was. Well, they've got different Chinese opposition today. Hong Wei, there he is, tall man, 22, 1.90 m, that's just under 6'3". And SHEN.mp4, 24 years of age, but my goodness, SHEN.mp4 would love to be celebrating his birthday on Sunday by playing in the final. So, as they make their final preparations, White, I mentioned his side, both his parents were professional basketball players. I'm quite surprised that he's coming to badminton rather than playing basketball, because obviously his height, I suppose for a basketball player, he's not that tall, 6'3".
Korea. Finals-Jae to serve to SHEN.mp4, level, play.
So the number 2 seeds nearest to us, Jae and Lee Yong-dae. Jae really is the worker in the partnership, isn't he? He loves to be at the back of the court. He's not the tallest of men, but my goodness, he thunders down the smashes. And Lee Yong-dae, to me, has just got wonderful vision at the front of the court. And I assume, Anthony, they'll try and get in that formation as much as possible.
It's the definite tactic for the Koreans. Watching Jae around the back of the court is a sight to hold. He has such leg strength. I mean, he's a little guy, but his coverage around the back is so impressive because of his power. And Lee Yong-dae around the net, potentially one of the best net players in the game today.
He's, of course, not only a great net player, he's also the current Olympic champion in mixed doubles, won that title in Beijing with Lee Ho-jung. Well, of course, fresh from their victory last week, Hong-wei and SHEN.mp4 defeating their opponents of today in that final of the German Grand Prix. And the Chinese pair progressing through to this quarter-final stage by virtue of their victory over the number 6 seeds and former champions Koo Kiat and Tan Boon Hyung from Malaysia. But, Anthony, there was an extraordinary situation at 20-all. There was a wonderful, wonderful long rally to get the players to 20-all in the deciding game. All 4 players at one stage left the court area to get a drink or to towel themselves down, and yet the umpire gave a yellow card to Koo Kiat, and then when he once again walked around the court and didn't play on immediately, he was given a red card, and therefore a point. A red card means a point to your opponents. So in other words, the umpire handed a match point to the Chinese pair, and it was greeted, I have to say, with loud boos and disapproval from the crowd. It was really quite an extraordinary thing I've ever seen.
A very, very bizarre situation. You know, you will always see players walking around the court, flicking sweat off their brow to make sure they're ready for the next point. All 4 players were doing exactly the same thing, and Koo Kiat was the one that came off worst. And you could tell it immediately affected them, and they lost the point very, very quickly to lose the match. A phenomenal all-round rally. The power, the strength of all 4 players, but the great thing I love to watch about all these 4 players, Jill, is their defensive abilities. The amount of shots that they can get back, even when they're being thundered down from the net, is so impressive.
Yes, and I always think, especially for me, watching Lee Yong-dae and his intensity when he's on the defence. He crouches down low, he's looking eager, looking to fight and get the shuttle back every time. As you say, it really is very impressive indeed.
I think Lee Yong-dae's got one of those perfect techniques. His feet are always in the right position, his racket's always in the right position, always looking to take the opponents on in the mid-court and on defence. And if anybody's watching that wants to copy somebody who's got the perfect defence, he's the man.
And that's a powerful smash from Hong Wei.
Service over. 5-all.
Chinese pair only formed their partnership midway through 2010. And last year was their first full year on tour together. But for the Chinese combination, Anthony, they've never actually been in a Super Series tournament semi-final. This is their big opportunity. Do you think in any way that's going to play on their minds?
I don't think so. I think the Chinese Federation always get their players to think very, very positively. You know, they know how hard they train. I mean, I've watched this pair for a few years now, and they were very, very raw to begin with when they first came out on the tour. Now they look like the finished article. Very, very strong. Hong Wei, for a very, very slight man, hits the shuttle incredibly hard. Actually moves very, very quickly, considering his height as well.
Of course, this is actually the 7th meeting between these two pairs, and the previous 6. Jung Jae-sung and Lee Yong-dae have won 5 of them. It was only that final last week was the first time that the Chinese pair had beaten these Koreans. And it poses an interesting question to me as to whether players completely feed off the last time you've played against another pair, or whether you draw on the resources and the memory of 5 previous victories.
I think when you've lost to an opponent so many times before, you can basically just go out there and play free. There's no pressure on you to win. Everybody's almost expecting you to lose if you've lost that many times before. So you just have a real good go. And if the pressure's all on the world number 2 pair, then they can just go for it. Obviously, this is a very different situation now that the Chinese pair have won the last match, and I think the pressure probably is a little bit more on them now.
There's an example of the power smash you were talking about from Jung Jae-sung.
Brilliant thing though beforehand, that was that Lee Yong-dae set the rally up so well. He's such an intelligent player. Whenever he does give away the defence, he's looking to counter every single time, but he doesn't always use power to get out of trouble. He just likes to steer it back to the net. He follows the shuttle in, takes the net away from their opponents. They give the lift to Jung Jae-sung. That's when he's at his best.
A nod of approval from Jung Jun. Having to contort his back to get that first one back, but his partner was way out of position. Yes, he's got a long reach, hasn't he? You've got to be awfully accurate if you're going to play back to the net when he's standing there.
Brilliant movement here. And then straight across, ready for it. He knows it's coming there. Like I say, made great use of his long arms.
He never looks as comfortable at the front of the court to me. That's a prime example. much rather be hitting the big power shots from the back of the court, Jung Jae-sung. My goodness. Oh, this is just brilliant. What a rally! Phenomenal!
That's just men's doubles at its best, isn't it, Jill? Flat play, hard smashes, great defence, the movement around each other phenomenal. And then he really stepped forward on the final shot and pushed it straight into the open court.
Just 2 points the advantage for the number 2 seeds at the mid-game interval. Just 9 minutes of play. 9 sensational minutes. Korean coach there with the shorter of the two Korean coaches, Clinching. Playing himself. Former world champion, if I remember correctly. Men's doubles back in 2007 with Ha Tai Kwan. Also a former mixed doubles partner of mine. My mixed doubles partner got sick when we were at the Korean Open and he substituted. We had a little bit of a problem with our communication on court, but enormous fun.
11-9.
Not a bad replacement.
I just stood at the net and shouted 1 or 2 instructions to him and he seemed to understand that perfectly well. Anyway, they're back to the serious business. 11-9. Well, he leapt from his base position, did Lee Yong-dae, to hit that final smash. Well, the rally just before the interval, it's just as well they had an interval because that previous rally was 73 shots.
13-9.
Oh, that's clever. Very nicely done.
Service over. 10-13.
Bringing it down so steeply. The block on the return of serve, forcing the lift. And it's not always about power on the attacking play. Of course, when we talk about attack, we all think of heavy smashes and fast play, but the variation is often more effective.
Very much so, Jill. All 4 players on this court do have very, very big smashes, so when they're defending, they're standing quite deep. So the slower smash, or the slice, bringing it closer to the net, actually is probably a more effective shot in this game at this current point in time.
14-10.
Yeah, there's his ability to read at the nets and dominate the front of the court. Well, and that's where his height is such an advantage. But the timing to intercept that had to be perfect. Wonderful play from Hong Wei. Lee Long must have changed his mind.
15-11.
Definitely seen a sign from the Koreans that they're really looking to push forward now, creating the lift.
It's a dilemma for him, really, after he's played the low serve, and if there's a net shot back, because he's not really that comfortable at the net, what does Jung Jae-sung actually do? Should he be forcing it to the back of the court, or should he try and persist with that net shot?
It's definitely not something that Jung Jae-sung does naturally, play in the net. Lee Young-dae is a much better sort of player of net shots and soft touches around the net. Jung Jae-sung normally would just lift away, get into the rally, and allow his partner to take that area.
Service over. 17-12. Service over. 13-17.
There's the change of pace once again being so effective. Just clipping that down. Well, he wasn't fooled by that flick serve. Very quick to get back.
Not at all. He read it immediately, knew it was coming. One thing I've definitely noticed in the last 4 or 5 points is the Koreans are definitely trying to pick on Hong Wei defensively. I think he's got the weaker of the two defences, and they've found that out. And that's the weapon he does have. Incredible power for a cross-court smash.
14-18. Wipe the court, please.
2:42. It's made 153 miles per hour. Good judgment.
Service over.
2 points away now from
14.
this opening game for the number 2 seeds.
Game point 14.
It's a gift, really. At this stage in the game, you can't be making errors on the return of serve. Game points. It's called good. It must have been awfully close. He needn't have really gone for the line there. It was a good interception, though, at the net.
Incredible.
265. And this time, the Koreans convert. The opening game is theirs. 21-15.
First game won by Jung Jae-sung, Lee Young-dae, 21-15.
21-15 the scoreline in the opening game. So the Koreans looking quite relaxed to me. Of course, last week in the final they dropped the opening game. Well, I really thought in that 2-minute timeout that the Koreans were looking very relaxed indeed. They were talking to their coaches, nodding at each other, just keeping a little bit of movement. Obviously, the game plan is working. They've obviously sat down after their defeat last week in the final, and they've obviously worked out what they have to do differently. Whereas, in contrast, I thought that the Chinese coaches were a little more animated.
I think last week's match maybe just be a one-off for the Korean pair. You know, you can't play well all the time. They look very, very confident now, and I think Koreans on the top of their game will beat this kind of Chinese opposition every time. But they are playing very well, the Chinese.
And I think they've improved a lot in general terms. I've been watching them over the last year or so, and I think they've really have improved. They've got a much better understanding between the two players. They were getting in all sorts of trouble, and they were first on the tour as a pair, getting in each other's way, both going for the same shots. There's a much better coordination between the two players now.
Very much so. I think when you get a pair come out on the tour very, very quick, very, very strong, they do have a bit of understanding problems between them because they're so fast. But I think training and playing in and amongst with the likes of Ka Yun and Fu Haifeng on a regular basis can only help you.
Totally agree with that. Success breeds success, and if you've got sparring partners, 4 times world champions, it's bound to help.
2-1.
The channel attack down the centre of the court, setting up the rally, got the net player involved. Narrows the angle of reply if you hit down the centre in between the two players. They can't produce such angles, and there's very much more possibility of your net player intercepting. Absolute megastar in Korea is Lee Yong-dae. Household name, one of the biggest sports stars in the whole of the country. That's lovely. Well, there's me saying that he's not that good at the net, just to prove me wrong on that occasion. It's lovely.
I think anything where it's very, very fast at him, his reactions are so quick that he's so explosive onto it. That's the sort of thing he finds easy. It's when he has to play the soft shot is where he struggles.
Yeah, good call by the line judge. That was just long. is the problem now that the Chinese are so good at this rotational play. Do you lift straight again, or do you lift cross-court and risk this happening?
Definitely wouldn't go with the tactic of lifting to Hong Wei. He does have an enormous smash. He's definitely got the biggest smash on the court. So if you're going to lift to anybody, you'd lift to Shen Yi.
Hit the frame of the racket on the strings. That's why he made the error. And I just sense that the Chinese pair, if they want to repeat their result of last week, they're going to have to be awfully careful right now. This is an important passage of play for them.
I think the Koreans' confidence has gone through the roof since winning that first set and sort of restating that, you know, they are the better pair. I think the Chinese are finding that very, very difficult. I think they're kind of running out of ideas a little bit at the moment.
Yes, one of you were with us yesterday. We saw Lee Yong-dae, was it 5 or 6 rackets that he broke in his match? Certainly was going through quite a lot. Keeping the stringers busy here. Army of stringers, they do a wonderful drop. Four-point advantage.
Service over. 4-7.
Oh my goodness, what a rally and what defence from Lee Yong-dae.
Just have to watch his feet positioning when he's on defence. He's so ready all the time. He knows he's played the wrong shot there, but so ready.
Service over. 8-4.
Yeah, no wonder he's happy with that. Three gold medals at the 2006 World Junior Championships, this man. Seeded number 2 in the World Championships when he, Senior World Championships that is, when he was still a junior. Because he and Jung Jae-sung actually formed their partnership while he was still just 17 years of age.
Service over. 5-8.
Yeah, took his chance. It's very much the case in doubles, isn't it, Anthony? You know, singles, we've been watching the singles before this of, you know, how you try and outmaneuver your opponent, whereas doubles, you take the half chances. You've got to go for those half chances at the net.
Definitely, that's where Lee Yong-dae is so good. He turns those half chances into 100% chances because he's done it so many times that he never questions his ability to be able to kill the shuttle.
They smile.
Service over. 6-9.
He's going to retire after the London Olympics, is Jung Jae-sung. Lots of speculation as to who will be Lee Yong-dae's new partner. Who's your money on Go Sung-hyun?
They've got so many good men's doubles players that, let's be honest, Lee Yong-dae is such a talent. He could honestly play with anybody, and they do have so many good players in reserve to come in and step up to the plate. And I think there'll be a lot of players out on the tour glad to see the back of one of the Koreans.
There's good judgment. Lets it drop long of that back line.
10-7. Service over. 8-10. Play, please.
Oh, it's found the back corner. It's a lovely placement.
9-10.
It's great play from Hong Wei. Steps in so early. Even though the shuttle was way below the net, he used his reach, stepped forward as quickly as he could, creating the pressure.
Now just 1 point the deficit.
Service over.
But the angled smash forces the error, and therefore Jung Jae-sung and Lee Yong-dae have the advantage at the mid-game interval. 2-point advantage to be precise. The steeper you can get it against a tall man, the more difficult it is to defend. Really is quite remarkable, the consistency, though, Anthony, of this Korean pair. When you look over the last 12 months, only twice have they failed to reach at least a semi-final, and one, of course, was the All England last year. But time and time again, semi-final after semi-final, in fact, finals as well. They've reached 8 finals in the last 10 tournaments. That is consistency.
That's very impressive. To be able to pull that off every single tournament, not just physically, but mentally. To be able to make sure that you're always up for it every single match. There's so many good players and pairs around the world now in the world of badminton that to be able to produce your best every single time it's asked of you is a real credit to them.
What a great flick serve. Well, he doesn't miss many of those. Did he break the strings of his racket? Yes, he did.
Service over.
What do you think's happening here? Why is he breaking so many? Do you think he has his racket?
3, that's minimum tension, and with the thinnest string that you can possibly get these days. Some of them, in fact, are even having them up to 34, 35 pounds per square inch. And on top of that, they pre-stretch the string to begin with, which makes it even more. I've spoken with a few of the stringers this week, and they've told me that that makes the equivalent of about 40 pounds per square inch, which on a badminton racket is incredibly tight. And it only takes a slight mishit and that string will break.
I have to say that those statistics are absolutely astonishing, but also, you know, in my mind, I have to question. We talked about yesterday's match and 5 or 6 rackets breaking. He's broken at least 2 here today. And you sort of think every time he breaks a string, 90% of the time when that happens, he loses the point, loses the rally. Is he winning 9 extra points per game with the strings being that tight? Because if he's not, then he's in a negative by losing 9 points or whatever with the strings breaking.
Absolutely, I think that's right. You know, I like to have my racket strung at about 32 pounds per square inch, but that's very, very tight in its own right, and I tended to not break too many strings. You know, if you're losing 9 points a game, you could lose a match on that. You know, even if you broke 1 or 2, you know, that's a possibility of a 21-19 loss. So there is that, getting that balance between what you feel is comfortable that you play with and going above and beyond breaking too many rackets.
Yeah. Oh, there's a string gone. This time from SHEN.mp4. You can tell immediately that a string has broken. It's a different sound the shuttle makes off the strings of the racket.
15-10. Sorry. Service over, 11-14.
Umpire just correcting herself. It is indeed 11-14. Oh, my goodness. Oh, the missed opportunity. Well, a lesson in why it's worth scrambling the shuttle back. Kept themselves in the rally, the Koreans.
15-11.
It's just incredible how quickly he can recover from that as well. Look, he's so fast at getting up.
Yeah, he's pleased with that as well.
Thank you. Service over. 12-15.
I think this is the crucial part of the match now, Jill. This is that point where the Koreans really turn the screw and put pressure on the Chinese. They'll go away from them. However, this is where the Chinese got a real chance to pull this back.
Oh, good judgment. Couple of disguised drop shots prior to that.
Yo! 17-12.
There's a couple of times he's made errors on the return of serve. Got to make your opponent play the shuttle, put them under pressure. He's going wide. There's a disguise on the lift from Lee Yong-dae.
18-12.
Yes, nicely taken. And that's lovely rotational play in that rally by the Chinese pair.
Absolutely
13,
brilliant. You know, the
18.
fantastic movement around each other. That's the nature of a Chinese game. A lovely finish at the end there. He really almost reversed the net kill so that he didn't pile the shuttle out the back of the court.
Almost came back in.
14-18. Thank you.
Time for the Chinese to make their move if they want to come back and win this. Brilliant. Short, sharp movement of the racket, bring it down so steeply.
Yeah, he spoke at previous rally about the Chinese speed around each other. In that rally, Koreans showing exactly the same thing.
Well, in the opening game, Hong Wei was outstanding.
20,
Now,
match point,
the
14.
racket, the errors are flowing from his racket because that last error means that the Koreans have 6 match points.
Service over. 15-20.
Umpire just telling Lee Yong-dae to get ready, get on with it. And that's gone wide. Revenge for defeat last week. Number 2 seeds Jung Jae-sung and Lee Yong-dae keep their remarkable record going through to the semi-final of yet another major tournament. Victory this week in 2 straight games. Symmetry in the scoreline. 21-15, 21-15 in 42 minutes of play. So, Jung Jae-sung and Lee Yong-dae safely through to the semi-final. And they will play the winners of our 4th match on court this afternoon, because it will be a battle between the defending champions, Matthias Boe and Carsten Mogensen, the number 3 seeds, up against the number 5 seeds, Chai Biao and Guo Zhengdong of China. So that's later on. That's our 4th match, but prior to that, we have a singles